got a system on at the moment that we're running in for somebody quite special. So I'll probably discuss that in its own individual video, but we're putting some hours on a system for somebody who was one of those spikes with me as I was growing up. So yeah, it's quite mind-blowing actually, but yeah. And what that has done is that's brought in a set of Evoke 30s, which we haven't had in here before. We've had every other Evoke other than the 30, because I somewhat considered it a stepping stone between the 20 and the 50. It's not. There's a reason it exists, and it's very, very apparent. So I'm going to probably, as part of what I'm here to do today, I'm going to listen to this. But whilst I listen to this, there'll be an element of me hearing this, because I don't necessarily critically listen to music that I like. But whilst I'm hearing this album today and enjoying it, I'm going to try and keep a non-biased opinion, because of the music that's being played, of the Evoke 30. Yeah, don't expect a bad review. It's since the moment it's been put in, its characteristics are different from any of the other Evokes. But yeah, let's play some music, let's listen to some speakers, and see you over there.
And the simple need to sit and cry. It's not that I'm lonely or that I'm blue. It's just that I need to be with you. Our love will last forever. Our love will last forever.
We have time. Right, trusty notepad in hand. Another Dynaudio speaker, another great review. Right, okay. I know it's kind of seeming like that, but there's no endorsement here. We pay for all these things. It's not a yeah. Anyway, 30 is a very surprising speaker for me. Like I said earlier, I'd written it off. I hadn't written it off. Okay, I know it will be a good speaker, but it's too close to one and too close to the other, and I thought, you know what, we'll miss that one out of the line. We'll have the one above and the one below, and then the one below that, and then sometime in the future we'll get them in. And I just wasn't too fussed. But we'll get a set now, because that was their last play, really, that you've just seen, and I'm regardless of whether we sell them or not, I'm going to miss having them around. So I'll try and blast through this, because I'm conscious of these reviews being long. Now, I do believe some people deserve a relatively long review, so it's not going to be really short, but let's get into it. Okay, so trying to explain this without sounding like an idiot is going to be a little tricky, because it is effectively just stereo separation and sort of blend that I'm talking about here. But left and right relationship is excellent. The way the two speakers interact from left and right, they just, as with any good speaker, they just forget themselves. They kind of, it's like hearing one common large speaker. Now, of course, that is effectively what stereo imaging should do. But the way they do it is just better than most than I've heard. Like just like a matched pair of speakers that they're just in unison. So that was the first thing I noticed, was just how well centre vocals and stuff were just completely together and whole, which means that the left and right speaker are just doing a great job, so I've put, it's more than that, it's all in the crossover. As you'll have heard me say time and time again, the Dynaudio crossovers, how they get them to be the way they are, how they get them to sound the way they do, is just like, it's like magic to me. The Dynaudio blend is it's just really good. I know that's a cop out, but I haven't really got a logical explanation as to why the Dynaudio crossover at any price point just works so well. You can hear it. It's strange at first, and you think, well, that's different, but it is just extremely coherent. Just all to do with how correct the phase is on the speaker, and whoever's ears, and then of course the sort of Jupiter mic setup that they've got, they need a high five. Great scale, very similar presentation to the Special 40. Now that's where it surprises me. I would expect the Special 40, because of how high I regard it and how well regarded it is, to just breeze past these, regardless of these being £200 more expensive. There's a lot more box, there's a bigger driver count, there's more money gone in, visibly, than in the Special 40, but the Special 40 punches so much higher than its weight that I wouldn't have put them in a similar bracket. Now I carry that on in a little bit. I actually added a slight comparison at the end, so that was probably the biggest surprise for me with this speaker, was just how similar to the Special 40 it is, not the Evoke 20 and not the Evoke 50. What I was saying about it being bizarre, you would expect within a line one to just get better than the other. This doesn't sound like the Evoke 50. It certainly doesn't sound like the Evoke 20. It's very similar to the Special 40. Great scale, very similar presentation to the Special 40. Great mid-bass impact. Now, a notable thing from these speakers, from the second we plugged them in, we're probably in 40-50 hours now, so they're still getting better anyway. But is their impact, their mid-bass impact. Now, that isn't because I'm looking at a 5 1/4 inch driver and thinking it shouldn't hit like that. You could blindfold me and I would tell you that it's an impactful speaker. That is, I'm not too sure whether it's good or bad. I think that's subjective. Some people maybe like it a little more polite. I certainly like it. I'm drawn to mid bass. I've explained that in previous videos. They just have this. So here's my analogy. My wonderful analogies, whether you understand them or not. If the Evoke 50 was a drum, it would be 3 turns down on its skin tautness. There has to be a better explanation than that, but the 30 would be cranked 3 half turns on each edge. The drum skin is tighter with this speaker than it is with the metaphorical drum skin is tighter with the Evoke 30 than it is with the Evoke 50. Now, the Evoke 50 has larger drivers, a larger speaker. You would kind of expect that, but the mid-bass impact from these is out of character with the rest of the Evoke line, in my opinion. It's stronger, it hits harder. And is speedier as well. So that was that. Disappears like a stand mount. Kind of course it does. It's a narrow floor stander. Floor standers for me are probably my sweet spot. I like a good stand mount. I like a good stand mount. They just, even a rubbish stand mount in the right scenario can kind of vanish just because of its shape and size and how it sits in a room. And these do the same thing. They just kind of disappear like a stand mount because they are a small floor stander. I'll get you a picture. I'll have to drag them back down the other end of the room. I'll get you a picture of these next to the Contour 60i because the Evoke 50s are at my house at the moment, as I promised in the last video, sitting there in the living room. These are a small floor stander. I was really surprised when the boxes turned up, and even from the boxes I could tell they were going to be small. Now, our website, where they're all listed, of course, the images have to be a certain size. I don't judge a speaker's scale or size on an image, but when they're out of context, they look like they're going to be a similar size. I hadn't looked at the specs of the speaker, so I assumed we had 6.5-inch mid basses, same size tweeter, of course, as it is throughout the line, but they are, for instance, the Evoke 50, to be rough, probably be about this big. Maybe even more than that. Actually, they're a small floor stander. So again, the same footprint. You don't have to use the feet. You can put the spikes into the actual base of the speaker, but the same footprint as something like an Evoke 10, maybe. They're smaller than an Evoke 20 or a Special 40. So yeah, that's all. They're all pluses for me, given their output and their sound. They don't sound like they're that size. So disappear like a stand mount. Handling of dynamic shifts and swings are fantastic. Excellent timing. Now this goes alongside my Special 40, the similar presentation thing. They're quicker than the rest of the line's speakers. So quicker than the 50, quicker than the 20. I have no real explanation for that other than the drivers being smaller, more efficient, sort of easier to run. But that is the case. They are, faster sounding. And they just have that sort of quicker or more accurate transient response. Your starts and stops, they're just immediate, or maybe not immediate, but quicker than other speakers within the same line. And excellent timing, which is the same. I've put it in the same bunch. Where do they lose out to the Evoke 50? Now, that's the end of what I'm saying about these. I'm a little bit sideswiped by them. They're much better than I thought they were going to be, but the differences between these and the rest of the Evoke line is what surprised me. And also that they can be that different and still be impressive to my ears and to me. Is a great feat, really. So yeah, where do they lose out to the Evoke 50? I've put low end, of course. You've got dual 8-inch bass drivers or dual 7-inch bass drivers, much more cabinet space. It's just physics. You're going to have lower end from them. One thing I will say though is in my Evoke 50 review, which I'll link to, I explained that they are, I called them an every room speaker. So, and I still believe they are. That said, in my room at home, they don't sound like they do in this large room. They seem to couple better with this large room. These are working really well in here, but the characteristics of these lead me to believe that maybe they would be a better speaker for me. I don't think I'm just high on their performance, and that's just what I'm saying. It's just kind of an emotional reaction to the speaker. I don't think that's the case. Just what I'm hearing leads me to believe that they may be better for me. So it might show a crack in my every room speaker sort of theory that I had with the 50s. They may be for slightly larger rooms, and hence why this exists and why these lines are thought through. Will I be out in the 50s for them? I don't think so. I've no need to. They're a lovely speaker in my room. They work really well. Well, maybe in this room I can just lean on them a lot more, and I can't really do that at home. But we'll see. Less scale. Now, because they have less scale than the 50 does not mean that they lack scale at all. They have great scale, and like I said, with their sort of handling of dynamic shifts and swings from 0 to hero, that they're very impressive in terms of their scale. When you look at them, they're half the size of the 50, and I would say they lose out 10% of the scale. So that's a bit of a value thing there. But of course, they do have less scale than the 50s. That's the 50 is a much larger speaker. They may be more refined. Now, that means these, not the 50s. I think that these might be more refined than the 50s. My definition of that is they're less imposing in the way that they sound. You know, they may be a little more together. They all things are on steam at the same time, and therefore they may be slightly more refined than the 50. The 50 might be a little bit more of a party animal, you know. That said, between the two, they're both outstanding speakers. It's just, yeah, I think this one's maybe a little bit more polite, you know. A little quicker drum skin analogy. I've already done it, so yeah. If it, you know, this is wound a little tighter, and I'm not talking. It's not sort of snub nosed. It's just, and it hasn't got a stick up its arse. It literally sounds like it's wound a little tighter. That skin is bah instead of boom. You know. Yeah. Comparisons to the Special 40. Everyone likes a comparison with a Special 40. I wouldn't put it past people to compare their cars to Special 40s. Everyone's after a Special 40 comparison. Coherence, very similar. What I said earlier about the mid-range coherence and Dynaudio speakers, some are better than others. Take the Evoke 20 compared to the Special 40. I think the crossover is just better. Of course, it's at a different price point. They're going to focus more on a more expensive product. This bears a very similar sonic coherence to the Special 40, which is a very good thing. The Special 40 is magnificent. Comparisons to the Special 40, coherence very similar. Speed, bass character. Now the bass character, right, I've got to explain this. That tautness, the speed of it, the hit of the mid bass, how low it extends compared to its size, both as you look at it and as you feel it. Are beyond what you would expect. They are similar characteristics to the Special 40. Special 40 is just like that. You see the speaker on a stand, you play it, and we've had people in here and even sort of staff members in here that have said, you know, I thought it was still the Contour 60 or the whichever. I didn't realise it was those guys playing, you know, because their sense of size and scale, they're just far beyond their physical size, you know. So that is where these are similar. Like I said, they're surprisingly similar to the Special 40, more so than I would never have considered that. Price point, so 2,900 compared to 2,700. As I said earlier, there's a fair bit more box, as in, you know, there's probably less badge because they're not a Special 40, but very similarly priced. So they should definitely be on your shortlist if you can demonstrate either. Plus, for the next 3 to 6 months, I would imagine, you'll be able to buy these. You can't buy the Special 40. It's a shame, but that's the world we're in at the moment. Let's hope that comes around quick. Harder hitting mid bass in my comparisons to Special 40. You know, I was saying earlier about the speed of the two smaller bass drivers. Maybe there's some magic going on there and they're a little easier to drive, so they can bang straight out and come back really quick. I would say that, like I said earlier, again, that may be for some a bad point. For me, it's a good point. It has that that box to its mid bass that some speakers don't have and some speakers do have. It's not something that I would say is a bad thing personally, and box is, it's a terrible way to describe it, but this little, maybe this tiny little spike in its tuning at the bottom of the mid bass, which just allows it to really whack forward and come back quick, more so than the Special 40. But that is one very slim band, I would probably say around 200 hertz, maybe 150 to 200, just where that drum is starting to show you its speed or its pace. There's just a little boom there. Good or bad thing, that's for you, not for me. I think it's a good thing. You know, it makes stuff a little more exciting. In fact, drum tracks in most productions are something that I moan about. Why do people turn drums down? Drums should hurt. Drums are aggressive, rude things that most people that don't understand music hate because they're so obnoxiously loud. Why are engineers turning them down? I don't get it. You know, well, whatever. Yeah, so they play them well. You know, specifically drums. Same footprint. I've said that as well. They're smaller than a Special 40, to be fair. So if you wanted a Special 40 on a stand or an Evoke 50 or something like that, you're going to take up a fair bit more space. These will kind of sit there politely. You can bung them, so you can put them in a corner or against the wall. You can unbung them, stand them out into the room. I had them 60 to 80 away from our back wall, and I've got a trap behind there as well. And they didn't have any problem producing sort of scale and depth for me down in the bass. Standard stuff, incredible finish. I've explained to you about the walnut finish on these in the past, and the blonde wood finish. The gloss finishes are something that we haven't had in here. I'm not necessarily interested in them at the moment, just because we've got other lines of gloss and white and black, and I don't like to fill a room up with all the same stuff. So but the walnut finish and the blonde wood finish is second to none. There's speakers that are hundreds of thousands of pounds that have less of a finish than these do. I've explained how I feel about them. £2,900, so they're £1,000 or so less than the Evoke 50. I'll double check that, probably put it down here or something. Makes them, for me, excellent value for money. It puts them in a pool with a bunch of other speakers that I've heard that don't sound like it. Small, unintrusive. There it is. I've covered it. Shock horror. I like another Dynaudio speaker. Trust me, it isn't about that, but I do, and they're just the facts. The Evoke 30 is something a number of people have asked me to review, and I hope our client doesn't mind, but I've taken liberty while we're running them in under agreed circumstances that I've taken liberty to review them. Bloody wonderful things. Have a good weekend, guys. This has been the Evoke 30. I'm Carl, and this is Studio Incar and Studio Hi-Fi. Take it easy.